Okay, so I'm making Yake Yake. Now this was one of the most requested recipe for 2018 and I never got around to doing it. So it's my second recipe that I'm doing for 2019. So yes, of course I will need my cassava. I'm going to grate it, mix it with some stuff, steam it, and it's just beautiful. Let's start.
Cassava, also known as manioc or yuca, is used predominantly across sub-Saharan Africa countries and Asia. It's gluten-free and there are two varieties. They have the sweet and bitter variety. Now cassava comes with a harder outer rind that has to be peeled, and it does have a woody stalk in the middle, which also has to be taken out. Now either or, it's best to soak your cassava overnight to get rid of any toxins before you use it. However, if you do require to use it in its fresh state, it's best to use the sweet variety. So yes, I am using my cassava here and I'm going to go through that process with you. Now it can be used for various recipes, including gari in Ghana, which is dry toasted, or Yake Yake, which is a beautiful snack, and in Asia it's used as a pudding as well. So anyway, let's start.
Thank you. Ndudu Yake Yake na willow papa. Hey, we daga a chair mafia pepe. One your boss in a halafia where one of our put in qua, young Tom when you knew a bar, you know how to go. Hey, look up for Yake Yake. I'm going to do now is peel the cassava. So of course this is my knife. Now do take all necessary precautions when you're dealing with knife, any sharp objects, I've got a bit of experience, but equally you can use a chopping board, which is great. So here I divide it, and what I'm just doing is I'm just going to peel that beautiful skin off. If you watch my delicacy recipe, I went into detail on how to peel the cassava. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to peel this and I'm going to soak this for 24 hours just to allow it to ferment slightly, and also it gets rid of any toxins. And then I continue. Oopsie, come back here. Right. So here, and I'm going to soak this overnight. Wash it first.
As I mentioned earlier, it's best to soak your cassava overnight. However, if you're using the sweet variety, you can use it straight away. I cannot determine which one is sweet or bitter, so the best thing for me to do is ensure that I do soak it overnight. Now, in preparation of this video, I had already pre-soaked a portion.
Right, so after soaking overnight, what I'm going to do is just wash this. I'm going to be grating this beauty. Recycling. Over here, might use for something else. And then the grating starts. It's easier to grate it this way. And what I do is just grate it halfway until, I come to the middle part of it, which has like a stalk in there, and that's not edible, it's not nice. So once I get to that point, I just move it this way, so you can see it gets darker in there, and just do the side. So it's just easier that way. Now, would you be surprised to know that this is my first time of making Yake Yake? I was just like, look, throw caution to the wind and try it. After all, what can I lose? If it doesn't work, then you won't be watching this video. Simple as that. Oh, this is hard work, man.
So once you've grated it, you'd end up with this beautiful portion here. And as you can see, it's just nice and creamy and beautiful.
Now, in the normal circumstances, I've just used my grater to grate this. So it's a little bit rougher, but you can pound it to make it smoother. So I think I'll just do that rather than just be lazy. So yeah, let me wash my hands.
Now the reason why I'm not using a blender for this is I just don't need it too smooth. I need it rough, but I just need it so this just works perfectly. Also, I've added salt to this mixture and I'm just pounding it to get that beautiful consistency that I do require. So you can see here, it's textured, it's just slightly smaller, and I think this is perfect and ready for my shenanigans. So the next step is for me to extract the juice out of the cassava. So I've placed it in my cloth here. So you can use any clean cloth that you do have, or muslin cloth, whichever, that's easier, or cheesecloth. And use all your bicep and cores. All the fufu pounding episodes and the banku making episodes. By now you should have built some muscles for this, and squeeze all the juice that you can out of it. So you'd end up with this beautiful dry sort of mixture here, as you can see. You see, this is all the bicep action. So the truth about the delay in getting this video out is I was researching about the recipe, and there are various methods. The most traditional way is just purely using the cassava, which is just incredible. So you leave it to dry a bit, and then I'm using my agbaje, or you can use a sieve, and I'm just passing this through to make sure that I get rid of all the stalks or anything that's just unpleasant, and you continue with this till you actually end up with a beautiful consistency. Now, there was another recipe which also advised to add just a little bit of corn flour, which is like the Guinean corn flour. And, that absorbs most of the moisture. So especially if you're in a hurry, that seems like a quicker recipe. But also, it gave me a fluffier texture, which I did kind of like. But the traditionalists are like, no, it has to be just purely the cassava and nothing else. So I'm going to show you both recipes, and you can try both of them, and you can choose whichever one you do prefer, because it's exactly how I ended up making it. So for the purposes of identification, this is the one that I mixed the corn flour with. As I said, it's optional because the traditionalists do frown upon it. However, there is always corn flour being included at some point, but it's how it's included. However, I did find that when I made it this way, I sort of liked the consistency because it was fluffier. You don't need a lot. You just need just about a tablespoonful, and that just works its magic. But then again, I do understand the purist. I have to respect that as well. Okay, so now we're going to steam, and I'm using my steamer here. I'm going to insert it with a muslin cloth because that would hold the cassava in itself, and it can steam just perfectly. So I'm going to start by using just the cassava on its own without the mixture. However, if you remember, I mentioned that the corn flour is used at some point, because even if you're using just a cassava on its own, you just need to sprinkle some corn flour to the base of your muslin cloth. That will prevent the cassava from sticking to it once it's steamed. Then it's just easier for you to take it off the muslin cloth. So as I said, the corn flour is used at a certain point, but it's how it's used, you see. Now, how would you know? This is Ndudu by Fafa. I try and test things, and I push the boundaries, and I try to please everyone, but not necessarily, thinking that's going to happen. But hey, I hope you do enjoy this.
So all I'm trying to do is mimic the traditional way of doing it. So I put that in, and I'm going to let it steam. I'm going to bring the camera closer so you have a closer view of what's going on here.
So you can see the texture here. It's just nice, light and fluffy as well. So this actually becomes more of a personal preference to the individual, whether you add your corn flour or not. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm going to let this steam, and this doesn't take more than about 3 to 4 minutes. You don't want to over steam it because once you do, it becomes all cloggy, and no, you don't want that. So you need to keep an eye on it, which is exactly what I'm doing. And I'm watching each part of it. Now it's just got that darker color, that darker shade, and I know it's ready. So I'm just going to be taking this out. Now please apply all necessary precautions when you're dealing with things that are hot. Now, whilst that's steaming as well, what I tend to do is also try and, clean my surfaces and make sure that, if I have to wash my pots and pans and stuff, it's all done. Because the last thing I would like to do is wash after I finish cooking. No, I want to eat. Now, look at this pièce de résistance. Look how steamy and dreamy this is. I told you this is not any other food. This is Ndudu by Fafa 2019. We came by a bankable. So carefully left this. And as you can see, I'm just going to take it out and leave it to rest just for a little bit because it'll be easier for me to touch. And here, I just turn it and voila. So this is just a purely cassava version. And as you can see, it's fluffy. Yeah, it's perfect. It's beautiful. Now I'm going to steam the one that I did add the corn flour to. So you can see it actually has almost like a grainy consistency here, and it's drier in its sort of texture already. So yeah, yet again I sprinkled some corn flour at the bottom, and now I've actually scooped about 2 liters full there. I'm just going to cover this and steam this also for about 4 minutes. So now let's see which you would prefer. Personally, I prefer the one with the corn flour. But for the purist, I can understand. Absolutely. So I have respected that, but also just done my own little twist, as you do. And look at this. Look at this beauty. Look how fluffier this is. You see? Look at this. When I tell you this is not any other food, I wasn't joking. Now look at that pièce de résistance. It's the first time now. You are watching this because it worked. Because as I said, if it wasn't going to work, no, you're definitely not going to be watching this. And you will not believe what I served this with. So I had some old Molokai leaves in the freezer that I had steamed. So I just got some kita schoolboy, some mackerel, made a beautiful fish broth, mixed it, put adematoto, and that is it.
With my Yake Yake, which is nice and fluffy. And I'm just grabbing that kita schoolboys. We have a Manioc the chia, copper the chumokbo one. This is nice.
Now this just gets me all nostalgic. So hey, enjoy this little performance. That's why I like to dance before, during, and after cooking. Anyway, I'll leave a list of ingredients and measurements on my blog in ndudu.fafa.blogspot.com, so do check it out. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, of course, I know, as in Ndudu by Fafa. Until next time, take care of you, be nice, be beautiful, and happy 2019.